Jeff, thank you so much for joining us today. So COVID-19 is changing the way that businesses are functioning all over the world, all over the country. Please tell us what was going on in your business before COVID-19 and how has the pandemic changed the way that you have to work?
Wow, that's a great question. I'm thrilled to be here today. And I'll tell you what, just like anything, COVID-19 has accelerated transformation that was already underway. So for our organization, I'm CEO of the Youngstown Publishing Company and also president of Madison, Michigan and Market, my advisory firm. And transformation is what I obsess over day to day. And how do we continue to evolve and meet our customers where they are and give them the information they need, what they want when they want it. So with transformation underway as far as moving from, I've had this thesis recently that due to social distancing and due to the fact that we were forced to basically not interact with each other physically, anyone that has relied on basically face-to-face interactions, in-person meetings, they're out of luck. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit, it immediately forced everyone indoors to shelter in place. And so if you didn't have a strong digital presence or a strong digital footprint at that time, you were out of luck, right? So the whole idea that a requirement is everyone needs a digital footprint and everyone needs distribution. And we can't rely on social media as distribution because that's out of your control and it's a toxic environment. So long story short, the transformation underway is such that this has really accelerated the need for, and this can be seen from demographically speaking, those that have yet to embrace digital to illustrate their knowledge and expertise are at a severe disadvantage. And so that transformation, that's something that I've helped others try to accelerate their individual brands online in a more dynamic way. But then from a company standpoint, we're doing things, this organization here is 35 years old. Never thought I'd get everyone on Google Drive and Google Cloud and getting people collaborating on docs and sheets simultaneously. And so just simply us having to spread out has accelerated the change of even technology utilization to make us more productive.
Awesome. Would love to dive into both of those. But for the time being, when I was doing some research on you, I delved into this B2B showrunner framework. So when it comes to this idea of how can we use digital in the most effective way, it sounds like that's one of your answers to that question. So would love to know more about this concept of the B2B showrunner.
Sure. Bottom line, every company is a media company. Every person is a media company. In our hand, we all have a Hollywood production and distribution studio right here on our hand. And so to that end, to help you express and illustrate the value you add, you need a framework or a methodology to make that happen. So I have a 5P model: plan, produce, publish, promote, and then measure performance. And that 5P model gives you a way to walk into a content strategy which helps you take advantage of the opportunities at hand as far as, digital distribution and how you can represent, it's really about scaling your relationships. So one-to-one is always best, right? This is an amazing way to talk, but then what this video is creating scale, because one video can really reach thousands, if not tens of thousands of individuals.
You mentioned earlier that you have a team and you've been running the company for a while and it's been around for 25 years. Could you tell us a little bit more how you've been able to help your team transition to this new way of working, how you got everybody on Google Docs?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have, so I'll give you a little bit of background. So the Youngstown Publishing Company is 35 years old, founded by our current publisher. She founded the publication 35 years ago. It was largely a print publication. My career has been in digital marketing and analytics, 20 some odd years there. Several public and private situations led me to embrace life as a consultant. So, because I had that corporate ride up and down, up and down, up and down. And so to the extent that I was always looking for an organization to partner up with to help scale and grow. And so this was, my love of media and the fact that it's local here in Youngstown. I'm what they call a boomerang. So I've lived in Youngstown, Columbus, Ohio, Chicago, New York, Chicago, San Francisco, Chicago, New York, Chicago, Youngstown. I've bounced around a lot. And that was with 15 years at the Nielsen Company, a large global entity, gave me the chance to kind of move around quite a bit. So to the extent that I lost my train of thought essentially on where I was going from a background standpoint, but having done a lot and picked up experiences around the globe effectively, applying what I've learned and sharing with my colleagues here locally in Youngstown, Ohio, which is a small town in the Midwest.
So how were you able to inspire a team to adopt digital technologies when they weren't accustomed to doing that?
That's good. So we have a bifurcated staff, right? We have a seasoned team, those that have been 20 plus odd years, and then a team that we recruit straight out of college. And I'm somewhere right in the middle. I've been here, partnered up only for the past couple of years. But it's interesting to see there are occasions when our mature, seasoned team comes along just as quickly, because it's simply, once you get over the initial UX challenges, you just have to be productive. You have no choice but to embrace the technology. It's proven. It's not like a flyer, right? I mean, thousands of organizations are now embracing cloud-based technologies like Dropbox, Box, Google Drive, Microsoft Teams, Slack. You have to pick one and then get comfortable and familiar with it, but there's a patience required, right? Which you can explain things, but if you can show someone how they'll save time and how they'll interact more efficiently and just make them feel good about the experience and that they benefit from the experience, that's kind of where I start. I don't really click button my way there. I just say, you'll get what you need faster if you embrace this productivity tool. You won't have to wait. You won't have to wrestle with version control. We're all kind of pointing up and looking at the same document. So you'll get there faster. You'll be more productive. Your team will be more productive, and we'll evolve as an organization.
Switching gears from how an organization is improving its functioning to how a place is improving its functioning, was really inspired by the work that you're doing with the Youngstown Journal. Can you tell us more about the mission that you're excited about there?
Sure. Thanks. Our mission statement is to promote the growth of business, industry, and quality of life in this region, Northeast Ohio, Western Pennsylvania. And 35 years in, it's focused on positivity, right? And how we can positively impact the growth. And this region is known for bootstrapping, and just, resilience is something that this part of the country we're known for, Midwestern ethics. Well, a 35-year-old publication has a loyal audience, and a loyal audience can be motivated to do things. And so instead of kind of banging the same old drum, we really felt we had to change the narrative. And so to do that, we launched an advocacy platform called the Brain Gain, GAIN. And it's a 15-month editorial strategy focused on just two things. And it's to promote workforce development and build a culture of entrepreneurship. And at a time when most media goes left or right, we're blazing down the middle, advocating for two things that no one can argue with. Like, no one will ever say, oh, I need fewer entrepreneurs. And no one will ever say, oh, I don't want to develop my workforce. I don't want them to get training and enrichment. So we took just those two things, and we're about 9 months into this narrative, this editorial strategy. Of course, COVID-19 really changed the way in which we had to execute this editorial strategy, but we're still holding strong. So that's what's been interesting, is to use our platform that we've had and our loyal audience to really advocate for change. And it's been an interesting exercise so far. We've gotten a lot of the community behind us. And I think this gets back to the general challenge we started with, several minutes ago. Once you have a loyal audience, 1,000 true fans, as Kevin Kelly from Wired Magazine says, you can do a lot to impact change, bit by bit. So we've embraced that mantle, that mantra, and we're really every day trying to just move the needle forward and have this economy grow. And I'll just say one more thing. And ProPublica is a well-known nonprofit that funds research in news deserts, so to speak. We were rewarded a grant from ProPublica. We did a deep dive on years of economic development malfeasance. So it's not all good news. Sometimes we got to tell the truth and talk about funds that were not used to the best of their potential. And so as journalists, we also have to tell the truth and uphold certain standards and not just be a positive, not just be a force of cheerleading, but really a force of good. And sometimes to move forward, you have to expose things that are, say, counterproductive or suboptimal.
Yeah. So interesting how the role of the media has changed so much in the past. Let me say 10 years. I think you're hinting at that it's become more ideological. And so one really interesting change is building an advocacy platform, transcending ideology, and instead talking about economic growth, talking about some things that virtually anyone can buy into. Curious also to dig into this one other angle with you, which is just a focus on the truth. Do you find that was the audience always open to truth over ideology? Was that sort of an easy thing for your loyal audience to get behind, or were they a little surprised that did it used to be a more ideological publication that's now less ideological?
Well, that's a great question. That's something we've struggled with, simply because if at this present moment, right? So this economic development project, this researching into decades of economic development malfeasance, has been underway for more than a year now. And it just so happened to hit at the time when no one really wanted more bad news. Where we're just, we were muddling through the coronavirus crisis. We released it in early May. And it just timing wasn't great, because we're known for positivity. And at a time when now more than ever, we have to rally and get behind everyone, here we are kind of beating up an easy target. And these are all my personal sentiments, right? So these aren't from the business side of this publication. And my concern is with the commercial side of the publication, how we continue to evolve and drive our strategy forward. It was a little challenging to just try to reconcile doing our jobs, telling the truth, revealing our research with how do we do it in such a way as to not feel like we're piling on in a difficult environment. And it's still a difficult environment. I mean, things are reopening. Things seem to be moving along, as long as people stay safe and maintain, distancing guidelines. But we did that 2 weeks ago, and now we've moved on, and we're back to our, editorial strategy as we know it.
So how did you do it? How did you strike that balance between kind of being realistic about the gravity of the moment, but still maintaining that positivity that you're known for?
It's simply just being pragmatic and realistic to say, we did this. It's important for you to know, take it for what it's worth. And, of course, it was normally we produce 600 to 1,000 word articles. This was a 6,000 word, well-researched, a year's worth of research with deep documentation, fact-based. So not, no conjecture, fact-based. And so because of the fact that it was solid, based, built upon a foundation of solid research and actual happenings and actual events, you really couldn't argue. If we were coming out with a piece that was slanted, with flimsy information, then yeah, people would take issue with that. But and because we've been true to our editorial mission statement consistently, it's just part of the mission. But in this case, it was simply telling the truth, still surrounded by things that are growing and evolving. We have a rally around small business program in which simultaneously we were advocating for small businesses and to really support your local businesses and your small businesses, because they're the unsung heroes of our economy and they're the fuel of our economy. So it's just, I guess when you're consistent in who you are and you stick to your mission statement, we're well within the boundaries of just providing that information.
Yeah. Tricky balance to strike, but sounds like you've done something few could. Sounds like you've maintained your identity and you've struck this tricky balance. So well done. Well done. Curious to now get your perspective on sort of some of the broader developments across America when it comes to COVID. So we were talking before the interview began about how there could be a resurgence in small town America, people leaving the big cities. Cities are expensive, and our experience of cities has changed so much for the past while, right? People I know right now, I've left New York for a little bit, and I'm paying rent, quite a bit of rent for a spot in New York. And if I were to live there at the moment, I couldn't really enjoy New York the way I used to be able to, right? So curious to get your sense of what impact is COVID going to have in small town America? Do you think a lot of people are going to move there?
Well, I think if working from home becomes more of the norm than, say, an exception, because there was a period of time I was based in New York but lived in Youngstown, and I commuted in and out on a weekly basis, Monday night, or Sunday nights to Thursday evening on that route. But I do believe that if working from home and more flexible virtual environments are going to be embraced, and it looks like it's going to be that way for the foreseeable future, Google and Facebook both, Twitter just threw out any kind of office culture, right? They're just done. Everyone can work from home permanently. Facebook, I believe, is through 2021. Google is through the end of the year, I believe. But you'll find that people with talent will kind of vote to move to a place where there's more room, they can spread out, the cost of living is better. Access to technology is not an issue, and infrastructure is not an issue. You can get to places quickly. You can virtually connect with everyone. So what used to be seen as a, if you were in the Midwest, you may have been a year or two behind trend. I mean, this goes back to Pokemon Go when that launched. The moment it went live, I saw people walking around my small town looking for, the little what's-its. So there's no like lag anymore from a technology standpoint.
I love it. It comes back exactly to what we were talking about in the beginning of the conversation, that you need digital transformation to make it past this time and to transcend the challenges of the economic impact of COVID. And it is this very digital transformation which may lead to this effect of people being able to move to these smaller cities and leave places like New York. Mm-hmm. Fascinating. So as we continue to move beyond this pandemic, and you mentioned that things are already changing in your small town, what are your broader goals for your businesses?
Absolutely, workforce development is the key, right? So it's attracting a series of industries that make us diversified. And so this town was known for steel in the up through the 70s. That industry went away, this town crumbled. General Motors had a large production facility in Lordstown. That facility went away, big challenges. The good news is we have diversification around electronic vehicles, battery and storage cell development. And for example, General Motors and LG Chem have partnered together to build a battery plant in Lordstown, Ohio, the same place they left a couple years ago. They've come back. Electronic vehicles, there's a truck manufacturer called Lordstown Motors that basically makes fleet-based pickups, electronic pickups. As the loading center to the Midwest, we have a lot of logistics and transportation industries, trucking and transportation, setting up shop here because of our location on the way from, we're basically 600 miles from everywhere in the Midwest. And because of the way we're set up on 76, 80, and 71, and basically all the main highway arteries run through Youngstown. So because of that, logistically we're set up well. And because the cost of living and the capital investment required to get a business started here is much lower than say and we're very friendly, I believe, to businesses. So we don't have a lot of the issues that are normally dealt with as it relates to location and pretty generous with abatements. So I'd say that there's definitely the need to evolve, but not to get locked into one industry in particular, but try to have a diversified economy.
I love that. That's an important goal. So as we come to the end of our time together, we like to ask all our interviewees one question. This has been a time of lockdown for many of us. And what have you been doing for fun during this time to keep yourself entertained?
So when I'm not worrying about, and I'm generally paranoid by nature, and that's Andy Grove wrote the book about The Paranoid Survive. Do you remember that book? Founder of Intel. It takes a degree of paranoia to be successful as an entrepreneur because you're always a little bit on edge.
Makes sense.
But to have fun, picked up basically, really great to have the family together. And I have 2 kids, and we're always running them somewhere. So that was off the table. So we really came together as a family. Simply things like playing chess and playing cards. I taught my kids how to play blackjack. So they're only 10 and 13, but they're set up.
Ready for Las Vegas. You did it early. Love it.
Jeff, it's been a pleasure to have you on. Really appreciated your role in journalism, your role in helping a region grow, your commitment to economic development and human leadership. Really just appreciated the conversation and learning from you today.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the time today. Thanks for letting us share our story here, Dan and Lisa. I appreciate the time.
Thank you.